Imagine waking up one morning and finding out the East Coast is running out of gas because somewhere a group of hackers have taken a network hostage. In May of 2021, a ransomware group calling itself DarkSide broke into the computer system of Colonial Pipeline, the company responsible for moving nearly half the fuel alongside the East Coast. Their goal wasn't chaos, it was leverage. Colonial shut its systems down to stop the attack. A cyber attack had crossed fully into the physical world. When a cyber attack is detected, a first line of defense steps in. Not machines, but people.
An interesting thing with the Colonial Pipeline is that the attack was against the IT network, even though the operational network is what really disrupted the lives of everyday Americans, if you will. There were long lines at the gas, right, because gas lines were running out and people were panic buying, right? There was food supply shortages when you think if you went to the grocery store. The airports, there was delays or canceled flights because, again, fuel couldn't get around.
Cybersecurity is often described as a technical problem, but that framing misses the point.
If you go through a cybersecurity incident, that's going to impact your whole business. So it's going to impact your personnel, your reputation, insurance posture, your posture with your customers. There's the immediate impacts bucket, and then there's this nebulous long-term impact bucket that we still can't always we don't even always know how a cybersecurity incident is going to impact a business 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. Depending on the size of the network and the severity of the attack, can be a very expensive and long-term process. Sometimes it takes weeks and months.
For consumers, cybersecurity begins somewhere much closer to home.
Think about it in the very simplest form, like your grandmother filling out an online form, or your aunt shopping at a retail store, right? Like that personal information that, if exposed, has so much potential to damage their life in some way. A consumer gives their information to any business they're trusting that that business is going to keep that data safe and secure.
And when that trust breaks, people remember.
You don't have the name in the news about a data breach, because that means you're losing trust with the consumers that are using your product. And ransomware is unlike any other incident in the fact that it paralyzes the business. So think about it in terms of critical systems. Like, I think it's pretty easy to associate critical systems, like what if you could not use your credit card because all of those systems were down? Trying to relate this to what a student would think about. What if you couldn't use your favorite social media app because the systems were down because someone had paralyzed them with ransomware? So ransomware is very much like a hostage situation.
And what surprises people the most is how little effort it takes for an attacker to get inside.
It wasn't a sophisticated hack, but it was more of just using that social engineering, right? That's phishing attempt, if you will, and just kind of using what's already there. I think cyber resiliency is probably the key here, because one of the things you learn is that attack is probably going to happen. So being able to make sure that we can keep critical systems up through an attack, that is very critical. I think a lot of industry has always focused on defending. So we're focused on, I'm going to defend my network, but we're not as focused, and this is where industry, especially cybersecurity, is really moving, is how do you be resilient through a network?
I love to do a tabletop exercise where we take an organization's executives and other members of their response team through a simulated cybersecurity attack, where we get to kind of practice what everyone's role is in the case of a true ransomware incident and how they might respond.
Trust is lost very, very quickly. It's earned back through a series of events and longer term communication, right? Good communication. And so in the case of an incident or ransomware, the best thing that a company can do, or you as a security professional would do, is to have that constant stream of good communication.
In the next episode, we move inside the response, the war rooms, the first calls.
It feels really good to be able to kind of like take your client's hand and say, hey, I got you. We're gonna get through this. I know how to get through this. I've done it before. I do it all the time for all of my clients, and I'm gonna get you through it too, and we're gonna be fine.